I had heard a rumor that there was this guy, Bradford Ferguson or something from Rebellionaire, some company that has some wisdom from time to time. And I thought, the day after earnings would be a good time to bring him on the show. Hey, Bradford, how you doing?
Doing well. Yeah, let's talk Tesla earnings.
Yeah, okay. So my first question, and it's really, I know it's going to set you up. Do you think that Tesla only notified the press about the opportunity to ask questions about 5:15 yesterday? I mean, these were the worst questions ever. Shocking.
Yeah, these Wall Street analysts, they get they get asked to be on the call, and then they like as soon as you get on the call, you hit a button so that you can ask a question later, so that you can be called on. And it's a real honor to be called on, I
Yes,
think,
yes.
to have your firm's name on this call. Literally, probably a million people you maybe would listen to the call. There's 6 million Tesla retail shareholders. I'm guessing at least a million would listen to the call. And then they ask these questions and they just totally miss the boat. Maybe we can get into a number of them. There's at least four of them that they just completely missed on obvious questions.
All right. So I'll let you go first.
Yeah,
What,
let's go with the big one up front.
okay.
Elon said that Tesla was battery pack constrained,
Yeah.
and it's a little
Okay.
odd for him to say battery pack. We
Yeah.
wonder if it's a battery cell. Is the 4680 is that struggling, um, or is it the actual battery pack? For them not to ask Elon about the biggest constraint he named in the business, and Elon essentially said that he had met with senior management about this constraint.
Right.
Why wouldn't they ask the CEO about the biggest constraint in their business?
It's like it's just like it's so obvious. It's like right. And then he said we've had to make choices between mobile and stationary because of this constraint because we have this
Mhm.
constraint. Yeah. So what
So
did
don't
you?
get upset that we're complaining. I like the call. We'll get into why later, but
Oh yeah, I love the call.
I really hated the analyst questions. The second one
Oh,
was
wait,
Adam.
wait, wait. You
Oh,
can't
go
you
ahead.
can't
Go
run
ahead.
away. You're the expert on batteries and on
Mm.
mega packs, so you can't just run away from that question. What do you think is going on? And do you think it's already solved because Elon brought it up?
I
Or
don't think it's already solved because it sounds like, he recently met with management about it. Um, I'm concerned about 4680. I think Tesla's trying to do something that's very hard, and the hard part is doing it on these huge rolls at the high speed that they're doing it at, and doing a process that no one has ever done before. And I wonder if they're just trying to bite off too much with that.
Okay.
Um, but we don't know because nobody asked the question.
Well, now Panasonic is supposed to be making 4680s in Japan, and somebody else is it LG that's making 4680s? I don't know. It was
Yeah, I
one.
believe so.
I think so. So, we haven't heard anything about the batteries from Panasonic coming out of Wichita. I mean, wouldn't these all be and the 40 gigawatt hours? I mean, this is what the question I would have had. Talk to me about Wichita, Japan, LG, and the 40 gigawatt hours that you bought from CATL of equipment. Where are we on all of that stuff? That's what I would have asked.
Yeah. I'm wondering why about this constraint, and really wish they asked more about it. Maybe they'll find out more in these private one-on-ones that they have with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
head of IR or the CFO after the call, but that's really not cool.
All right. Number two question. Now that I needed you to flesh the
Yeah.
question. Number two. Number two.
Yeah, Adam Jonas asking about LiDAR again. Just another goofy Adam Jonas question. Now I will give Adam Jonas some credit.
Okay.
A long time ago, he did ask about Starlink, like having a little pizza box size Starlink on your Tesla, and essentially they have that now. It's
Hey,
not pre-built into the Tesla, but they have that now.
it might be
I'll
something.
give Adam Jonas some credit there, but for him to go back to LiDAR, it just seems very goofy and odd. Like we know that's not the approach. I don't know why we're bringing it up again. It accomplishes nothing.
That was one of the ones where I thought, did you not do any homework last night? Did you not think about this before you even got to the call? Did you have something else to do? You were watching a soap opera or something while the call was going on, to where you weren't curious about anything that came up. Anyway, yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Yeah,
you do
there
not have to give any color to the
yeah,
LiDAR.
there
We're
was
clear
one
on.
about margins. I think you thought have been a great question to ask.
Yeah, it was oh, I'm forgetting their darn name now. Truist.
Truist, yeah.
Truist, they just put out a note and they actually raised the price target about $20 or something. And they said, gee, you guys didn't say, you didn't give us any color at all, really, on why the margin miss was so big. We can guess a few things. They did say that it was mostly to do with price, the average price per vehicle coming down, even though there was a lot of Cybertruck in there. So that obviously would hurt margins, and a lot of that could have been 0% interest. That they had to buy down those contracts. But it would have been nice to have a little more color, and also not only that, but some kind of a statement of going forward. What we might expect on margins going forward. Is this a bottom and they're expecting to go up, or just what?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And there's a really big one they missed.
Okay.
And I'm just shocked by this because I think it goes into what hurt margins last quarter,
Oh, okay.
which was discounting. They discounted early in the quarter,
Right.
and I sensed that this was going to hurt. And I'm guessing that's what hurt margins, but all we have is guesses because nobody asked.
Right.
Um, but the biggest one, and I'm surprised Wall Street didn't ask this because they're very short term,
Yeah.
is what's the financial impact of the Model Y simultaneously ramping on three continents? You have three factories,
Four
bringing a
factories.
line
Four
down,
factories.
four factories bringing lines down
Right.
and simultaneously ramping the Model Y. So you're taking that production,
Yes.
steady
Simultaneously.
1.2 million per year, 300,000 per quarter, down to, who knows what. And then, okay, what's that financial impact? And how many do they expect to make this year of the Model Y? That would be really good to know.
Really good to
And
know.
then also, um, how much money do they think they're going to save per Model Y moving forward with this redesign?
And or
Come on.
what kind of a margin increase might they expect by being able to sell them for more because it's refreshed, not having
Yeah.
to discount as much, et cetera. Yes, all those things would have been really, really good. And especially given the massive orders that are apparently happening in China. And again, not one person asked that question. How about that one? And nobody's even brought that up until just now that I've seen. Are the numbers out of China correct? Did they
Are
sell?
they real? Yeah.
Are they real? And are we seeing anything like that? Can give us a little bit of a flavor of what the orders are looking like on the Model Y since they've been out for the orders. The order book has been open for a week. You could give us some color.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was another miss.
Throw them out. Put YouTubers on the call.
Kidding.
Let's go directly to YouTube.
We would do great. So then the other one I thought you would have brought up on your list would have been, where is that new megafactory going? I mean, you invented the term.
Yeah, that was another one they miss is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Elon mentions a new megafactory where they're going to make megapacks and no one asked about that. What
Where is it?
where
When
is
does
going to
it start?
be? When's the start? What's the capacity
Right.
plan to be?
So, any guesses? Any you want to put out a guess as to where it's going to be?
I'm hoping Europe, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by something like Indonesia,
Right.
um,
East
or
Coast,
maybe where there's like a bunch of nickel, or maybe where there's a good amount of lithium somewhere.
Carmel?
No,
No, no, no. Close.
Carmel by the Sea.
Well, you're a little far from the. I guess you're a little bit away from the lake, but you could get up by the lake up there someplace in the Rust Belt, and build them there, stick them on the lake, and shoot them around the world from there.
Yeah, there's a way from like Lake Michigan all the way out to the
Right,
Atlantic Ocean. Yeah,
right,
could do
right.
that.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm thinking my best guess, my favorite guess would be East Coast.
Mhm.
I think that's faster business, maybe. Um, it's really, I don't know.
I
Anyway,
think about where the ingredients are going to join. So like where's the lithium? There's some lithium on the west coast of South America. There's some lithium in
South,
Australia.
in South Carolina, right?
There's a little bit of lithium there.
But it's one of their major suppliers. So if they put a plant near there, and I think and that's right, and they have a contract for them to increase the amount they're getting from them.
I hope that starts with Piedmont because Piedmont's trading like a penny stock, so not looking that great.
Right. All right. All
I
right.
I think about Hershey's chocolate. So Hershey, one of the reasons why it was such a success is like it was a great spot for dairy.
Oh,
It was a great spot for near the ports for sugar
yeah.
and cocoa.
Okay. Well, with the lithium prices being down as much as they are, I guess that could be a problem. Okay, so let's go back to 35,000 feet.
Yeah, let's go back to the call.
Yeah,
Yeah.
35,000 feet. You were happy?
Yeah, I was pretty happy with the call. We're most interested in autonomy and the Tesla bot, so automation. And Elon and Tesla basically said their plans were sooner rather than later
Yeah.
for both. So announcing a start of June. Is that right? Was it May or June for Austin?
June, yeah, for us.
June. Um, so I thought that was great. I was a little disappointed. It's just one city in Texas, so they're going to have to work with on a city by city basis. So this feels like an Uber or Lyft 2.0, where they're going to have to muscle
Yeah.
into each city.
Yeah, no, I took it the other way because he talked
Okay.
about the toe, foot, leg. Um,
Oh, okay.
okay, and that's what I've been saying for months. Maybe you and I have had this conversation, maybe not. So I thought that the toe, foot, leg would be more like we're gonna put a supervised driver, but he won't be able to. I'm sorry, change that. Well, yeah, that was one of them. I had two different ones. So one of them
Mhm.
would be the unsupervised uh, for you
Remote
and me,
driver.
for you and me. Okay, it would
Hmm.
start off with Cook and those guys, just like it normally does. The same
Hmm.
old crowd would get it for 2 weeks before anybody else.
Right.
Then it would be spread out to the rest and spread out to the rest. And pretty soon everybody have unsupervised. Then after that, like 6 weeks of data gathering, then it would start in Austin. So that would mean, if
Mhm.
I'm right, they would have to start working on that in May. Say around May 1st, they'd have to start with unsupervised going out to the regular crowd. So
Mhm.
but the second thing would be when they start in Austin, although I think they're kind of done this already with these other efforts they're doing. When they start in Austin, they would have somebody in the driver's seat for the first 2 weeks. Then they'd pull the person out of the driver's seat for the next 2 weeks, and they would, and somebody suggested, they sent something to me in my X today saying, what happens if we have a only deliveries for the first 4 weeks? So no humans in the car, kind of like test it without the chance of
Mhm.
somebody in this losing somebody in the now the other car might be a problem, but anyway.
Yeah, the other car might be a problem. Yeah.
But anyway, so those are some ideas. It's like that. I think what they're doing here is they're inching it out in terms of making sure they've got everything dialed in. He even said, the pricing, the payments, the washing, all the little nitty gritty things. Do that for 4 or 5, 6 weeks, then bring it in probably to Fremont or someplace up in Northern California. Maybe they'll put it in Southern California simultaneously around, Hawthorne or something around the plant, the SpaceX. But anyway, and then when that's all solved, they'll be ready to move it out to the other places
Yeah.
that
That makes sense that they're getting things dialed in one city and that they would expand it. As long as they expand it substantially after that, I think I'd be happy. Also, Elon said some really bullish things around their testing around Fremont,
yeah,
where he talked about, I believe, thousands of rides per day.
yes,
Is that right?
yes, thousands of rides.
Thousands of rides per day. If that was going poorly, I think we would have heard about it. We haven't heard about any accidents.
Right.
Doesn't mean there hasn't been any, but we haven't heard about any.
Well, now part of those thousands of rides per day, though, if I understand it right, is the cars coming out of the factory. So if you've, I don't know how many cars do they make a day? I don't really divide 650,000. Is that 2,000 a day? Yeah, that's 2,000.
Yeah, out of Fremont, it could be.
Yeah, so there could be 2,000 cars a day coming out of the factory that are going and finding their own, parking spot. So that would be thousands of cars per day just there, not counting the rides that are taking place up in in their own little ride sharing.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
impression is it was like taking workers to and from the
yeah,
factory,
yeah. Mhm.
and that this was in the thousands now.
Could be. I mean, that would only be 500 employees twice a day.
Yeah,
Yeah, that wouldn't be shocking. Yeah, yeah.
I
No,
think
it's
that's
great.
pretty.
I
I
like
think
it.
that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I do too. All right. So, other top-down views for you, things that were, like in terms of the overall direction of the company or things that are going on?
Um, they seem to they think they're on track for the low cost model. So I'm curious if we get a model that's different than the Cybercab that's going to be sold to people.
Right.
So I'm really curious about that. Um, almost feel like I guess there doesn't have to be an announcement until it rolls off the factory line because people just buy them up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I ordered a Model Y.
I
We can
saw that. I saw
we
that you
can
had to
talk
get
about
permission.
that in a little bit.
All right.
Yeah, also around Optimus, um, they mentioned Optimus in their shareholder deck where they didn't have an explicit call out to Optimus before.
Right. Right. Yes. And I've saw at least 2 or 3 mentions in notes from pundits
Hmm.
overnight. So
And Elon talking about how quickly they'll scale production, I thought was good. We think he'll 10x production, multiple years in a row.
right,
I don't see why after they maybe do 5,000 that they wouldn't go to 100,000 that next year.
right, right.
So maybe they 20x, but then I think they'll 10x to maybe a million. And I think the part that might slow them down is the computer inside.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then I'm really curious to see how much that scales, how quickly that scales from there.
Yeah. Yeah,
from a million. That'd be pretty wild for
well,
them to
you know,
make a
if you,
million in 1 year.
yeah, if you give your suppliers enough time, they should be able to do it. Jeff Lutz also thought that the chip might be, the biggest issue.
Hmm.
Other people, I've had people on X today saying the actuator, would be the issue. And I'm like, I mean, I mean, yes, it's a complex part. It's got electronics. It's got, wires, little tiny, itty bitty tiny wires. It's got lots of things that are complex, but I kind of know a little bit about that business. My dad was building or was a engineer in the transformer business his whole life. And so I know
Hmm.
a little bit about, building a transformer and then, going into production. And I think once, and by the way, they're outsourcing at least some of that production. They're not going to make the actuators 100% in-house. So
Interesting.
they're going to an actuator expert, somebody who knows
Wow.
how to make actuators, and giving them the blueprints of what they want. And so this must be somebody who knows how to make lots and lots of actuators, really, really, really well. Yeah.
Well, there are companies that do that. They weren't making them in the size that Tesla wants, but if Tesla gives them a big order, I'm sure they'll oblige. And it's
Have to.
not, um, there is something to it. So, like, not every actuator is the same, and there's like a certain, like, uh, I'm not sure what it's called, but it might be easier to pull out than to push in, and that decision gets made and how they design the actuator.
Yeah. So what about any specific things in terms of your guys' bull case? Were there anything that you went, oops, we should have had that in our plan, or oh, that's better than we expected?
I think we should have known that like discounting would have hurt them a little more. So Matt had um a prediction for earnings, and I think he was a little on the high side. Um, so that was the only thing that was maybe a little less ideal. The other thing that was a little strange was it seemed like the revenue on the energy side was a little low.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing the deferred revenue is going to jump by quite a bit.
So people should
Um,
listen later tonight. Cern Basher on my show later tonight will be giving his combination. He looks at what was
yeah.
deferred combined with what was
Mhm.
claimed, what was
And that's in the 10K, which came out
so
this morning.
we'll
Yeah.
talk about that tonight. Yeah. So yeah, I think I guess maybe
So when Tesla announces 11 gigawatt
right.
hours deployed, that means it's been delivered to the site. It doesn't mean they fully recognize the revenue from it,
Right.
which is what makes this whole energy thing very tricky.
Yes, and then they'll put a number in their in the deck. They'll talk about a number that is reserved, a dollar amount that is reserved for the future that they can't realize until later.
Hmm.
And all of that is very complicated accounting. But I think overall, I don't think they are still at the ten uh, megapack,
Gigawatt hour run rate.
oh, the ten megapack run rate, right?
Hmm.
10,000, the 10,000, 40,000 gigawatt hours,
Yeah.
1,000 packs. I don't think they're at that run rate yet. Or else it's an inventory. It's possible that, but it just seems like there's still not enough to justify the flat out production.
Not enough demand or not enough what?
No, not enough showing up. I don't think we're seeing a full 100% between the deferred and the actual shipped,
Mhm.
recognized. It's still not, I don't think, quite to that run rate. I think we got room to go. I was thinking that they might have been as high as 14 gigawatt hours this time, and they weren't, they didn't hit that.
Just from Lathrop?
Lathrop plus the uh, power walls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Powerwall, I think, has been a disappointment. So that Powerwall 3, yeah,
Really?
where I think that factory is only running at like half capacity or something like that.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow. Interesting. Okay, I didn't know that. That's interesting. You think.
I think.
Okay. Um, what would you have liked to have heard that you didn't hear?
I, I I think we covered it earlier with the questions.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'd like to know more about um, Tesla bot, but I don't think they're ready to talk about more because the more they reveal, the more their competitors can make adjustments if they think it's a good idea. I suspect with the new version of the Tesla bot, it's not just going to be the hands that they change. I think there's going to be much more than that. Um, but we don't know till we see it. Um, yeah, I'm curious to learn more about their intentions for Austin. So, I mean, they could have asked about Austin. Is
Yeah.
Austin just going to be Cybercab, or is it going to be threes and Ys, S and X, Cybertruck? Will you be able to get a ride in a Cybertruck? I mean, come on.
Yeah, yeah, right. What is going to happen in Austin? That would be nice to know. I
So
mean,
it's going to be company run, so we know
right,
that.
right,
But I don't think that means it's always going to be company run, but they're going to get it figured out.
right.
And but it could be any of those models.
And then if it's delivery service, they could just put an Optimus in each one.
Yeah, they could do that too. Or just to freak people out where, they Optimus shows up driving a Cybertruck.
Yeah, I was playing around with the
Get
idea.
in, get in, loser.
I was playing around in my mind with the idea of the delivery service, an autonomous delivery service without an Optimus. And I was thinking, they could easy enough let people know, by text or email or whatever, we'll be there in 5 minutes, have somebody come out, and pick up the package. I mean, I don't think that would be, people could get used to that pretty easily, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be
It
true.
could self-open the back and
Yeah. Yeah. No big deal. I could get my pizza that way.
Mhm, exactly.
Because that's a big deal, the pizza thing. That is a big deal. It adds a lot to the cost of a pizza.
That's true.
So, so have you guys come up with a 2025 EPS yet?
No. We're
No.
we're pretty focused on Robotaxi um and Optimus. Yeah.
So
I
you,
I think I'm really curious to see how much it hurts them to be ramping the Y simultaneously at all the plants.
right,
I'm
right,
curious to see how quickly they get back to full
normal.
production. I think demand's going to be way higher for the Model Y,
Yeah.
but I'm curious to see if it takes away from some of the other cars.
Like I think it might take away from the Cybertruck more than anything. And my polling suggests that it'll take away from the Cybertruck, but I still think that they've got, probably a million good orders sitting there for the
Mhm.
Cybertruck. So I'm not terribly worried if it pulls from the
Yeah.
Cybertruck. Yeah.
We
Uh,
got Shanghai, the megafactory there coming online, so
yeah.
that should be a positive.
Yeah.
We might begin to see some kind of FSD in China. It does sound like that's maybe more second half of the year. And Elon did talk about how they're training that system, which is very interesting. They're just taking videos off the internet and using that to learn the traffic laws in China. They're very hardcore with their monitoring system in the
Yeah.
streets and
Yeah.
monitoring people. And if you inadvertently pull into the bus lane, you automatically get fined. They're like have a direct link to your bank account and yeah, probably worse.
Well,
So
this is not so shocking. I don't know if you have any paid freeways in your area, but in California, there's a whole bunch of those kind of lanes now. They're not
Mhm.
bus lanes, but they are, toll roads.
Yeah.
And if you accidentally stray, which I did about 5 years ago, I accidentally strayed into one of those because the signage was not obvious. And as soon as I saw I'd done it, I got off at the next opportunity. But boom, I got my email saying, "Hey, if you don't pay this fine within 12 days, we will fine you $7 million, and you just try to get it back." Okay, I'm exaggerating, but but yeah, that's our toll roads out here are crazy that way. Um,
And we'll have the low cost vehicle coming on, so that
oh,
they'll be scaling that.
right,
So that'll probably be a drag or break even for a bit.
right.
But that should I think would create some excitement too.
So I look back through the transcript because I was positive that there was a word that they used when they were talking about the low cost vehicles where they had said it was more than one. I thought they said models or cars. I
Mhm.
can't remember what the word was. I have looked through the transcript. I haven't gone word by word, but I've tried, look up the keywords. Did you hear anything that would have caused you to think it was going to be more than one model?
I think we had heard that previously.
Previously, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't catch that on the call, but
Okay.
it's possible they did say
Yeah.
multiple.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a
And
six.
it's possible it may just be regional variations
Oh,
where
yeah.
you get the European hatchback is different than the one for China.
Yeah, I'm hoping more like for a minivan, six passenger minivan and a small truck, a small pickup truck. I think that'd be great. Hatchback, six passenger, and a pickup truck. If they did that, I think the stock could go up 100 points just on the announcement.
Mhm.
But that's me. What do I know? So, have you been shocked, surprised, interested in the market play around the stock after the call?
So it seems like the bulls, the Tesla bulls who are already in the stock were likely buying it today. Um, it's possible that some folks are starting to get a little more long term or focusing on the future with Tesla because financially it wasn't a great quarter.
Right.
So Tesla bulls are focused on the future. They're um, they're uh, they're unburdened by what has been.
Yes. I like it. I like it.
And that's where you want to be. So that was interesting to see. I know the Fed made some comments yesterday people didn't like, um, where it seems like the Fed's not going to cut in March or whatever.
Probably not.
Um, so that I think helped drag things down yesterday. And then, yeah, today the stock started off soft, but then just kind of marched up throughout the day. So I think people were looking at the report and just thinking more about the future of Tesla. And there's a lot of people that still don't get it. Um, that should.
All right. So I thought the most important minute in the entire day, the entire hour, was when they said that the Optimus would be sold at market or rented at market. So in all of my analysis, and I've looked at your analysis, I've looked at Cern's analysis. Well, Cern and I have done it like point by point. Um, Brian Wang and I have done it point by point. Every single person that I know of that's looking at it has come up with this like $7,000, I mean, $70,000 a year, $60,000 a year rental, maybe a $200,000 price point. But if it goes at market, it's going to be higher than that.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would
So
change.
yeah,
That would change
essentially
all of our
what it
numbers.
might be is like a an auction
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
where it might be a blind auction where people say, okay, here's what I'm willing to pay either upfront or for a year, and here's how many years I'll agree to rent it if I'm gonna rent it. Yeah.
Right,
So yeah, I don't think they'll offer a lease where people have the ability to own it.
right. Not
Um,
in the beginning. Yeah, not in the
yeah,
beginning.
I
Yeah,
agree with
so
you.
it could be that. It could just be like they did with Cybertruck. They could just come out with it at 400,000, which is
Yeah.
probably about what it's worth. That's the Larry Goldberg number, I think. He thinks
Yeah,
if you hold it
we agree with that. So yeah, we're at 460, so
for
we're very
60,
close
right?
at
Right. And that would make a
actually
lot of
what we
sense.
think it's worth. Yeah.
That would make a lot of sense comparing it to the 70,000 rental, 400,000 or so. So they could go out with that number and just sell them until nobody nobody bought.
Hmm.
So and you know, I've said this so many times now. I hope my crowd doesn't get mad at me for saying it over and over again. But 20 years ago, I would have easily paid $100,000 for a piece of automation equipment that would eliminate 3 employees.
Hmm.
It wouldn't have been nothing. It would nothing easy and easy to. It wouldn't even been taking me a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. And now we're talking about much higher pay, much higher overhead per employee. And we're not
Mhm.
talking about 1 or 2 shifts. We're talking about up to 4 shifts. So for somebody to pay $400,000 for one of those things to do 4 shifts would be a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
And you at that point you have the worker. You don't
Yeah.
need to worry about anything with scheduling or
Hiring, firing,
yeah,
motivating.
that's right.
No, don't worry about motivating. Get in there, work harder. So, okay. So, all right. So then what that told me though was if they're going to go for, and so that means all of our spreadsheets would need to change in terms of our expectations of
Yeah.
the profit on Optimus.
At least that first year or two, yeah.
Yeah. So then that also told me though that the semi truck and Robotaxi will also go out at market price. Whether that's the sell, whether that's
Yeah.
the sell of the Cyber
Yeah,
cab.
I would hope, but my thought against that is Elon basically was saying they were going to sell it for about 200,000, that they're making 50,000 a year and that the revenue would be 10 billion per year.
He said that, yeah,
So if you then divide it, then that's basically saying that they'll sell it for 200,000. I think that's way too low for
way
the
too low.
semi
Yeah, way too low.
because
No,
your
maybe he
your
means
fuel
that's
savings are substantial.
now maybe that's just the semi, not counting FSD.
Still,
Still
it's
too
way
low.
too low, based off of the fuel savings alone.
It's just the fuel savings.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, so a similar sized truck diesel is around 125, 150. Is that what you found? Something around there?
I've heard like 150.
150. Yeah, I've seen them as low as 125. So going to 200 would be a nice premium, but my number has always been 250 as far as what I hoped they were going to charge, plus another 70 to 100 for the FSD,
Yeah.
or it could be an annual or a monthly or whatever. Yeah. So, but I wasn't putting those numbers in my spreadsheets because I thought he was going to try. It just felt like he was trying to be nice.
Hmm.
But I think maybe he's not trying to be nice anymore.
Yeah, they should charge what it's worth. If I could buy a bunch of Tesla bots for $50,000 up front, I would turn around and sell them.
Or 400.
Yeah. I'd make a business out of it.
That's
So,
right. That's right.
and that would be money that just Tesla's just giving away unnecessarily. As a shareholder, I'd probably want whoever's responsible to be fired if
Yeah,
they were just giving them away for, what they're not worth.
absolutely right. 100%. So I noticed that you've had quite a few you've been active on X on the story of DeepSeek.
Hmm.
And it does apply a little bit to Tesla, in particular to their big data storage or data operation. So where are you on it as of today, Thursday, after a week of all kinds of exciting things? I mean, it's like you could put it on television as a daytime story, a daytime soap. Go ahead.
Ultimately, I believe that the demand for NVIDIA AI data centers is going to remain strong. And I think the reason for that is our thesis is that text is going to be solved. So AI with text and with commanding computers, that's going to be solved. We'll have agents that'll be in specialized roles. So you'll have one that's like a lawyer that's better at being a lawyer, and one that's better at being a financial advisor and things
Oh
like that.
no, not that. I
And
hope they don't have one that's better at being a YouTube, a
yeah,
YouTube.
they're working on that. Um, so that I think that'll be solved pretty easily. It'll just get much better. But when you look at the data for video, it's just the data and compute needed for video is much more intense than just text.
Mhm.
And the way I think about it is like one frame of video is 2 megapixels.
Okay,
And I don't know if that's quite, 2 megabytes, but essentially you have like information for 2 million um, you know, pieces of data in just one frame of
right,
video. And
right.
there's 30 frames a second. Um, a
Yeah,
lot of seconds in a minute, minutes in an hour. So
yeah.
you think about all that data that you need for video, and um, I think that the demand for AI compute is not going to go away suddenly.
Mhm, mhm.
Certainly, maybe some of the techniques could make it easier or less demanding. Um, I believe DeepSeek was half telling half truths.
Oh,
They did disclose the cost and how they got to the cost
okay.
in their paper. So they weren't like being misleading about it. But they did like make some really aggressive assumptions, saying that they would get a certain type of compute for 2/3 less than the prevailing rate, but they did provide the rate
Okay.
so
Yeah.
people could look at it.
Hmm, hmm.
Sorry, my throat. But ultimately, I think it's a really good thing to have these models that do this chain of thought. So what that means is you prompt it, and before it gives you the answer, it thinks about the answer, and it does it to itself. So it's like thinking in its head,
Right.
and then it has your context. So you gave it your context, and then it has its own thinking about the context and the problem. And then once it does all that, then it looks through all this context, yours and its own context, and then it gives you the answer. And they tend to give better answers. Sometimes they overthink it and add too many steps or things like that, but they tend to give really good answers. I think this is a really powerful tool for people to have at their fingertips, and
Hmm.
you can on this MacBook Pro I have here, you can run a smaller version of a similar model. So it's not DeepSeek's actual model, but
Right.
it's a model from Meta where they've had the DeepSeek chain of thought or
Oh.
thinking
Mm,
added to it.
mm.
Um, so yeah, I'm really excited about it, and I could tell you about a little project I've done with it.
Sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
So we're a wealth management business, and we have we have to archive emails from clients,
Right.
and in our client relationship management software, CRM or
Mhm.
uh, management software. Um, we have 150,000 emails spanning 14 years.
Right.
So, a couple weekends ago, I just downloaded that and I used the different language models to help me simplify that database, and you're able to describe the problem to the large language models without actually giving them the data. So you
Mm,
say, okay, here's the problem I have. It's an email database. Help me find out more about this file. Um, and let's begin to work. And you're a database engineer, so you're telling the LLM you're a database engineer. So how would you look at it? Because I, Bradford Ferguson, am not a database
that-
engineer. Um, and then it writes code, and then I run the code on my database, which is
mhm,
on my private computer. So it's not code that sends us data back to China or
right,
anything like that.
right.
It's just doing a simple query on the database, and was able to whittle it down and understand my database better. And then the next weekend, I had the big language models um, write code so that I would analyze each email. And it was, I got it to work, and it was with a private software on a private computer with my private data, so I'm not
Yep,
sending this to China,
yep.
right? Um, and I got it to work where it would analyze an email in 9 seconds, so it could do like 10,000 emails per day,
Mm,
roughly.
mm.
And basically, what I'm wanting to do is to gain intelligence from these emails, as far as like a lot of emails with our clients are tactical. It's scheduling a meeting, opening an account, a simple question about tactical stuff, housekeeping,
Right.
um, so things like that. So there's a lot of noise in emails,
Yep.
but I think there's some signal too. Like
Mhm.
we can see, okay, in this email, their parent died and they got an inheritance,
Mhm.
and maybe we don't have that information in a neat little place.
Right.
So what I want to do is take strips of information from these emails and build them into client dossiers
Sure.
along with other information that we have, like
Mhm.
more other information where it's much higher signal.
Right. 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 Right.
So
Right.
email is like the hard thing to tackle first,
Yes.
but
Yes.
we're trying that.
Very cool. Very,
So
very cool.
yeah, just very impressed that you could do something like this. And these models are um, open weights, so they you can just download the model, run it on a piece of software called LM Studio, and run your private data, or just chat privately with one of those models. They're not as powerful
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
as the big models, but they can do simple tasks like analyze an email. And here's the thing, Randy, like who can analyze 10,000 emails in a day?
Yeah. Right.
I don't know who, but
No.
like I couldn't pay someone to analyze let's say they're capable of doing 100. Um, they probably could do more, but who
Right.
would want to sit there, read the emails, and then like come up with this classification scheme, and then like write really good summaries to you know, help us with these emails? Like no one would want to do that job. It's very boring. It's very repetitive. It's also kind of hard too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're distilling that information down. And like no one would want that job.
Buddy.
So like literally, I'm able to use these LLMs to do work that no one wants to do,
right?
no one really can do.
And for less money, even if they wanted to.
That's right.
Interesting. That's very, very good. All right, let's drop back to the overall economy. The new president has been in office for about 8, 9 days now. We've seen Elon putting up his daily counter, showing his billions of dollars that he's cutting.
Mhm.
And we've seen the bond prices starting to come down. I've been saying for weeks now that the bonds prices would come down if they believed the new administration was really going to make the cuts. So how have you seen this process? Does it look to you? Do you feel confident about that the judges aren't going to necessarily going to, I mean, we've seen judges get in the way, but that the Democrats won't just completely come in and try to stop all of it? Or do you feel good about where we are? What are you thinking about?
Yeah, I think the Fed is uncertain. I agree with Jeff Lutz. He has an interesting theory. I don't know if he shared it on your show yet, but his idea was that if the federal government can cut spending, then that would make the Fed much more comfortable cutting rates.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think that would be interesting. Bare minimum, they're trying to freeze spending.
Hmm.
And they're trying to stop some, rather obvious waste.
Right.
Um, so I think the combination makes sense for rates coming down. But if you want rates to uninvert, uh, you kind of need the long end to stay kind of where it is, and you need the short end to come down, right?
Yeah. Well, it is uninverted. So the shorts
Okay.
are now less expensive than the longs, or
Hmm.
less yield, but
Hmm.
but the shorts are still a little bit problematic,
Yeah.
as Powell said. He said that that's still an issue. But the biggest problem really is that the longs are still at 4.51, something like that.
Mhm.
They need to be like 3.75, and no
Yeah,
matter
a lot of lending is based off of the 10-year bond.
yes.
But we had some news that broke like an hour or so before we started, Randy.
Okay. Okay.
Trump said that he's going to tariff Canada and Mexico 25%,
Well, we knew that from a week ago, but he's I don't
reiterating it. I don't know
reiterate.
if it's happening tonight or what.
Now they sent what's his name, the new border czar. What's the guy's name? I can't keep all these names straight yet. But anyway, the guy that's in charge of Homeland Security,
Mhm.
they sent him to Canada, so he's up there now. He's going to be
Okay.
meeting with their. He's going to be having a meeting.
Yeah.
So they're that's supposed to, hopefully uh, figure out how this is all going to work out with Canada at least.
Mhm.
I haven't heard anything on Mexico though, in terms of whether there's meetings or planned meetings or anything.
Yeah, if Trump were to do it, I don't know if there's a mechanism in place to currently do the tariffs. Maybe there is. But I'm guessing that Canada and Mexico are going to do what they can to get them taken off.
No kidding. And
Yeah.
what you're saying is they're going to cave.
Yeah, they'll cave
Okay.
quickly.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah. All this business of them just ret re doing something retributive. What's the word? It's not
Retaliatory.
going to be a retaliatory response. They're not going to cut off Buffalo's electric supply. I guess Quebec or somebody up there supplies Buffalo with like all their electricity, some kind of
Mhm.
dam up there or something that provides them with all of that, so they could just say, turn the switch off. Say, sorry, Buffalo, you have no more. Be like what happened to Germany and France with Russia, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen. Pretty sure. I tend to agree with you. But overall, you think
Like that. I think if the tariffs went in place and they stayed in place, that would be pretty bad for the economy on a short-term basis.
Short term, yeah, yeah,
It'd definitely be really bad for a lot of manufacturers that have moved production from the States to Mexico.
or Mexico, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, I'm sure. I feel highly confident that there will. You know, I just did a thing about this on X today, and I said, look, watch Trump, watch what he does. Okay,
Mhm.
he throws out something that's crazy, way beyond what he wants. Okay, then he just lets it lay there. Oh, I'm sorry. He puts in some kind of a threat around it and a date.
Mhm.
There's always a date because when you're negotiating, you always want to have a date when it's got to be decided by. It's always going to make things happen. So then you have a threat around what you're going to do, and then you just let it sit there, and you wait for them to call. Then what you want to do is you want to let the other side feel like they got to win, and you want them
Mhm.
to look okay. You want them to not. You don't want them to look like they're running away with their tail between their legs. You want them to be able to get an okay headline, and that's how his negotiating style works. That's what he wrote in The Art of the Deal.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I thought when you first said that, the other side gets a win, I'm like, well, Colombia didn't get a win,
Right.
but actually they kind of did, and I'll explain why. So,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
allegedly they're using the president of Colombia's own plane to
Right.
do deportations from the US, like they
Right.
caved to that point. Um, but the after the deal was made, the Colombian president claimed victory.
Right.
So
Yeah.
maybe there was something in there, but
Yeah.
he
He
claimed
claimed.
victory and like Trump didn't like um negate, his victory proclamation.
Well, he had said that the reason he was concerned is because they were coming home in handcuffs and that they shouldn't be treated like criminals. And
Mhm.
so by picking them up in his own plane, he can decide whether they're in handcuffs or not. And so that solves his problem.
Or champagne.
There you go. Absolutely right. All right. Any last words of wisdom before I give the numbers, Mr. Bradford Ferguson of Rebellion Air?
No, let's get right to the numbers.
All right. Well, it's been great, and we'll look forward to seeing you next Wednesday, Thursday, whatever day it is.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Let's take a look at where we are in the numbers today. We have got Tesla having moved up as Bradford had mentioned. It was all the way down to 393. I want to say was the low of the day after starting the day. Actually came in immediately at 410, then boom, 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 down to 393, 383 rather, came back up to around 400 the rest of the day and finished the day at $400.28. In the after hours, it's up another 53. So it seems to really like it right now, around $400. Please remember, my number is 410. And as I continue to have my fun battle with Brian Wong, who will be on, I'm pretty sure tomorrow night or Saturday morning. Anyway, Brian is at 450, and both of us are looking at that as either Friday or Monday. Now, I'll mention again the 3-day rule. My 3-day rule is after the earnings call, it takes 3 days for the street to get it. We get it, the retailers and the ones who pay attention, we get it right away, but it takes 3 days for the street to get it. So if we're at 410 or 450 on Monday, that will indicate that the street got it a little or that they got it a lot. So anyway, we'll see what happens over the weekend with regard to Tesla. But we have got the Dow Jones up 168 today, the Nasdaq up 49, and the S&P up 30, almost 32. The Magnificent Seven was mixed with Apple down a bit going into earnings tomorrow. Google was up, Amazon down, Meta up, and Microsoft way down after their big miss, and Nvidia up a little bit. Finally, we had the Cathie Woods, which were all up. Basically, yeah, TDOC was down a penny, but the rest were all up. All right, let's go ahead and look at the bonds. The bonds, last time I checked, were up a little bit again. Unfortunately, that's true. So we got almost down to, I think we were actually for a minute, we were under 4.5 on the 10-year, but now we're back up to 4.535. So going in the wrong direction, not 100% sure why. I really feel like this should be a rout. There should be a lot of people trying to make money by buying bonds right now. Okay, 2 years also up 2.3 and the 1 month up 2.1. So that's interesting. They very rarely move together like that, but it doesn't mean anything, just an oddity. All right, let's look at oil. Oil, which was up a little this morning, still up a little. We're at 73.14, which again is down about $7, almost 10% from where it was a week ago, 10 days ago. And so we're sitting, up 40 cents in the pre-market. Natural gas, up 1.94. So that is the first up I've seen in natural gas for a week, but it's literally down 25% from where it was 10 days ago. Gold continues up now at 28.52. Remember, 27.95 was the old all-time high, so it's blown way past that. And silver continues up at 32.73. Following on the heels of gold, I'm guessing silver will probably be back to $34 in a couple of days, but that's a guess. I don't know. And I'm just basing this 100% on how the sentiment, how the feeling is, okay? Not off of charts or anything like that. Copper up 0.10% right now, 4.313. You're probably getting used to it like I am. 4.3 something seems to be where copper's been for a while. Yen is has the yen, I think, I forget now. I think the yen increased their rate, or I can't remember, euro. Anyway, I'll figure it out by tomorrow morning and I'll report on it then. All right. I do not have the Bitcoin because the thing is not working. So sorry, maybe I can do it this way. See if I can get it here. Here we go. Up 564 to 104.7. So that's where that is. And then here we go with the equities. The Dow up 45 or 0.10, S&P up 0.75 or 0.16%, and the NASDAQ up 84.75 or 0.39%. All right. So as let's see, this is what time? Yeah, okay. This is the 5 o'clock hour, roughly 5:08 right now for me. I've given you everything I need to give you. We've got Cern Basher coming up at 7:45, so be sure to hang around and see that. Hit the notify in order to make sure that you get that. If you haven't already hit notify, you need to do that so you'll be notified of these shows. And then in order to do notify, you have to be a subscriber. And if you haven't subscribed yet, then come on. And then of course you could do Patreon. That'd be lovely. And then last night, again, both shows last night did extremely well. But if you haven't watched both shows last night, highly, highly recommend you go back, and I'll put both of those cards up right there. Which was Tuesday, Wednesday. That would have been Brian Wong and Jeff Lutz. So those were very, very good reports on the earnings yesterday night. If you haven't seen those yet, that I would highly recommend you do that. Okay, that's all I got for now. It has been phenomenal, amazing. What a week. And there's still more to go. We got the PCE tomorrow. Oh my goodness.